Hello everyone! So today, we will discuss about topic 2, legal liability of auditor and quality control. Before we go deeper, let us try to understand what is liability. Liability refers to accountability and responsibility. Alright then, next, do you guys know that when auditor fail to perform professional services adequately, that they can be sued by who? By client, investor, creditors, and government, which auditor can be held liable under two classes of law, which are statutory law and common law. But before we explain to you about two classes of law, we want you to know what the causes of the lawsuit. Lawsuit is happening because of expectation gap, where there is difference that exists between the public aspect of auditor and what the auditor believes their responsibility should be. Oh no! Because of expectation gap, it has brought problem, for example, loss of confidence on auditor, audit report less reliable, auditor would have bad reputation, and more worse, increase of lawsuit. But don't worry friends, when there is a problem, of course, there is a solution to narrow the gap, which are educate clients and the audit committee. Next, educate clients and public on the word reasonable assurance, because not all understand the word in the audit world. Third, auditors strictly adhere to auditing standard and be sensitive when found out possible existence of fraud in every audit they conduct. We done on that. Now we have to move back to discuss the classes of law. The statutory law is a written law enacted by legislative arm of the government that establish certain codes of conduct that must be complied. Why we need statute? The answer is for safeguard of shareholders and the third party, which involve of lenders, depositor, public, and etc. Let us look into Company Act 2016, where govern the auditors in Malaysia. In section 263, it talk about qualification as auditors. Under section 267, 271 as well as 274, it is tell us about appointment and remuneration of auditor. While for section 266, it is mentioned for power and duties of auditor. And we want you to remember that the auditor has legal reporting liability, which they have the duty to report any violence of law but not to detect it. Okay, let us look into BAFIA 1989. What does it say? When auditor found any violence of BAFIA by bankers, auditor need to report to the Bank Negara. Security Industry Act 1983. This act governs the trading of security on the stock exchange. Here, auditor need to report to the Security Commission. According to Company Act 2016, auditor is whistleblower and need to report to member or highest management. AMLA 2001. This act more on anti-money laundering. If auditor found related with the unlawful transaction, they need to report to the Financial Intelligence Unit of Bank Negara. As for SCA 1993, this deal with the public securities offering, as the auditor have responsible to report if they found non-compliance of the act by company or borrower.
Alright, as for liability under common law, here the auditor not required to guarantee his work, but required to perform with due care, which they have liability to clients and third parties. According with common law, auditor is liable to clients for breach of contract, negligence, and fraud. Liability to clients and third parties, auditor may be liable for negligence. Therefore, action can be taken by clients and third parties, but must prove the following elements, which are breach of duty of care, casual relationship, and damage. Why don't we make it short? Both cover them. Easy for us to remember, right? What are the meaning for the four elements? Don't worry, we will explain for you. Breach of duty of care is auditor has failed to act in accordance with due care. For example, failed to complete job stated in the engagement letter. As for duty of care, is auditor or a duty of care to client and third parties. In other words, a contractual relationship, casual relationship, also known as connection which exists between auditors' negligence and the plaintiff damage. The last element is damage. Here, the plaintiff suffered actual loss or damage.
Hello, Zrin.
Hello, Sha. Yes.
Hey, do you free tomorrow morning?
Hmm. I think I don't have anything to do tomorrow morning.
I want to make discussion about the evolution of liability and the common law.
So it's quite a good idea since I feel bored if I just stay in my room.
Can you please bring Wendy?
Okay. Later I will tell Wendy. So can I know what time do we meet tomorrow and at what place? Okay.
I think 24-hour room might be a perfect place for us to meet tomorrow. Around 10 a.m.
Okay, Sha. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay, then I see you tomorrow then. Okay. Bye, Zrin.
Ah, Wendy. I need to call her now before I forget. Hello, Wendy. Sorry for disturbing you.
Hello, Isrin. It's okay. I'm really busy anyway. Seems like you want to tell me something important.
Yes, exactly. Sha has called me just now. She want to do some group discussion tomorrow.
Yes, sure. I'd love to join you guys. Since our class tomorrow morning is cancelled, right?
Yeah, maybe around 10 a.m. at 24-hour room.
Okay, see you then. Bye.
Sorry. Hi. Hi, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, I'm late.
Me and Wendy also has arrived.
Oh, let me catch my breath.
Hi, Shan. So we can start now. Since in the afternoon we have another class.
Okay, sure. Let's begin. A long time ago. Ultramares versus Touch et al. Okay, Your Honor, let me begin. My client here, I want to ask you something. Why did you file a lawsuit against them?
I approved a loan to a company because I trusted the auditor. But then after I give them the loan, their company suddenly bankrupt. I suspected the auditor did not do the duty well.
Wait. Your Honor, did you aware that the audit report is used to obtain the loan?
Yes, I do aware, but I don't approve for which bank.
Court held that the auditor did not owe a duty of care to the plaintiff based on the doctrine of privity of contract. The court quoted that if a liability for negligence exists in this case, an accountant may be exposed to a liability in indeterminate amount for an indeterminate time to an indeterminate class. Therefore, the liability of the auditors is no limit. Chandler versus Crane, Christmas and Company.
Okay, Your Honor, for this case, I want to ask my client, what is your relationship with defendant?
I was the investor that interested to invest in the company in which the auditor are working for.
So, what are your reasons for filing a lawsuit against them?
I make an investment after I trusted their audited report. But then, after I make an investment, the company became insolvent. I want a justice because due to the auditor report, I'm making a loss.
Any objection?
Did you deny about your negligence of your duty and aware about the investment?
No, I do not deny my negligence, and I do my job as usual as auditor, and I do aware I prepare it for investment purpose.
But did you know who is the third party?
No.
It was held by majority of Court of Appeal in England that in absence of contractual relationship between the parties, the auditor did not owe a duty of care to the plaintiff because professional accountant would not be held liable to a party outside the contractual or fiduciary relationship based on doctrine of privacy of contract. Hadley Byrne versus Heller and Partners.
Come in. Hello.
Hello.
Please sit down first.
I'm from Liability company.
Yes.
I would like to ask about a credit reference from Easy Power Limited Company.
Give me a second. I will look for it. Here it is. Okay. Before you go, I would like you to sign this.
The disclaimer of responsibility. Okay, I sign here.
Yes. And then here is mine. Okay, that's it. That's it.
Keep calm, plaintiff, defendant. Court already decided that the bank owe a duty of care to the plaintiff on the ground that the bank is responsible to give information with due care once he knew or ought to have known that Hadley will rely on its information to make credit decisions. However, Heller and Partners escaped liability because it has inserted a disclaimer of responsibility in the certificate of credit references. On the strength of the disclaimer, the bank did not have to pay any compensation to the plaintiff. JAB Fasteners Limited versus Marks, Bloom and Company.
Your Honor, according to accounting standard, inventory should be recorded at the lowest of cost or net realizable value. However, defendant did not check the amount and just put cost amount into the inventory amount. Thus, my client incurred huge loss after buy shares in BG Fasteners. Shut up. That's all, Your Honor.
The court held in favor of plaintiff on the ground that the auditors knew at the time the accountants were prepared. The company needed outside financial support and ought reasonably to have foreseen that a takeover was a solution to financial problems faced by BG. The auditor owed the JEB Fastener a duty of care in the preparation of audited accounts.
Like that lah.
Oh, now I understand. What about you, Zuri?
Wendy, I agree with you. And Shah has already explained the case in a creative way, so it made me easy to understand the case.
Don't you guys hungry?
Yay!
Let's go.
Okay. I forgot one case.
Which case?
Royal Bank of Scotland.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go then.
It's okay. I just send it to you. The link.
The last case, which is case number 5, which is involved Royal Bank of Scotland versus Benjamin Johnston, MC Clay and others. In this case, the plaintiff claimed on misleading of audited information regarding the disburse of loan and investing in equity of a company that had to go into the receivership. This caused the plaintiff to suffer loss and they sue the auditor. For the judgment, in reference to the Capro case, when the auditor did not put the disclaimer statement in their audited report, they will be owing a duty of care to the third party because they know the third party will rely 100% on this report to make a decision on lending or making an investment in others. There are 4 types of relationship between plaintiff and the auditor. The first one is the privity relationship. It refers to the contractual relationship that exists between 2 or more contracting parties. The second one is primary beneficiary relationship. It is a non-client relationship, and the auditor knows that the audit is specially for the identified third parties. The third one is the foreseen party relationship. It is non-client relationship. It is known to or reasonably expected to be known and rely on auditor's work in making the decision. The last one is the foreseeable party relationship. It is the user who are not specifically known to or identified to the auditor. It is reasonably be expected to see the auditor's report and financial statements. It is public or market who make investment decision based on audited accounts.
Caparo Industry Private Limited versus Big Man and others.
Prosecutor Shah. I'm sorry, wait a minute. I just woke up, that's why. I'm sorry. Here. Actually, I need your opinion on something. Last few months, I acquired a share from this company, which is I bought 100k from open market.
Okay.
And then the next time, after I checking their and see their audited report, I bought another 50k. And then when I acquired the control over this company, I realized that they actually not acquire a profit but loss. And then what should I do?
I think we should sue them.
Sue them?
Yeah, sue them.
Okay.
Okay.
Court held that the auditor owed no duty of care to investor making investment decision on the strength of auditor unless the account were prepared specifically for a third party for a particular purpose and the intention was made clear to the auditor at the time of the audit engagement.
For the liability under common law for the breach of duty of care, there are 2 classic statements have often been referred to in defining the auditor's responsibility to perform with due care. The first statement is by Linley, L.J. in reference London and General Bank by year 1895.
For this statement, an auditor is not bound to do more than exercise reasonable care and skill in making inquiries and investigation. He is not an insurer. He does not guarantee that the book do correctly show the financial positions, but auditor must be honest, not certify what he does not believe to be true, and he must take reasonable care and skill before he believes that what he certifies is true. Where suspicious is arose, more care is necessary. In absence of the above, auditor may be set as breach of duty of care. For the second statements, the auditor had relied on the manager's certificate as the basis for ascertaining the amount of inventory stated in the balance sheets. As a result, the inventory is misstated and inflates the profit. For the at the time stock tag is not normal auditing this. The judge considered that it was not the auditor's duty to take stock and that he must rely on some skilled person to record the proper value of stock. However, to respond to the auditor's responsibility relating to detecting the fraud, the judge stated that it is auditor's duty to perform with reasonable skill, care, competence, careful, and caution, on which depend on particular circumstances of each case, but he is not bound to detect the fraud. As a conclusion, reasonable skill and care is not static concept. The standard of reasonable care will go in line with current expectations. For the liability under common law, for the casual relationship, the plaintiff must also prove that the following: the casual relationship, which is mean that the third condition in a tort negligence is the proof of connection between the plaintiff loss and the act of negligence. The plaintiff must demonstrate that the loss is the consequence of the breach in duty of care, and at the time the breach was committed, the loss was reasonable foreseeable as a consequence. For example, to prove a connection between auditor failures to detect a fraud and the loss arising from the fraud. The plaintiff also has to prove that if the auditor had been carried out competently, the auditor can detect the weakness of internal control and able to prevent the fraud, and accordingly the loss of the fraud can be avoided. This can be done by refer to the case of Gallo Limited versus Bright Graham from the year of 1994. In this case, the court had proved that the casual relationship not exists because an entity, operations, or decision and result depend on many factors such as management and market forces. Accordingly, the plaintiff claims against the auditor was denied. Next is the liability under common law, which is damages. The plaintiff must also prove for the following, which is damages. The fourth element, the tort of negligence, is the proof of the plaintiff suffer actual loss or damages. For the type of damages is the loss of investment, overpaying of investment, loss due to defalcation by management or employee, and overpayment of dividends. The measurement of damages is dependent on the circumstances, and the courts typically attempt to approximate monetary equivalence that the plaintiff will get if the auditors discharge his duty properly. Award of damages would not be granted if the plaintiff have not suffered real or measurable loss. For the contributory negligence, the auditor may not be able to argue that the client is partly responsible for its loss. For example, auditor may attempt to prove contributory on the part of the client by showing the fraudulent action of its employee and manager that caused company suffered loss. When the auditor able to prove, apportionment of liability may be possible between the auditor and client. The case under this liability is AWA Limited versus Deloitte Haskins and Sells in the year of 1992, which is the auditor were held negligence because failed to report to the board of directors the significant weakness in internal control which had caused the loss to perpetuated and concealed. The company was held liable due to failure to install adequate internal control. This can stress the importance of auditor to report all the material internal control deficiency to board members.
I bet you guys already understand for the auditor liability. So now we will explain to you what is the elements of quality control. But wait, what is the quality control mean here? Quality control is a system that relates to concept of professional competence and the meeting of professional standards in providing professional services in order to reduce audit risk and audit failure to acceptable low level. The objective of quality control is to provide with reasonable assurance that the firm comply with professional standards, comply with applicable regulatory and legal requirements, and issue appropriate reports. Quality control are addressed at firm level and engagement level. Alright, this is the element of the quality control. LIAHM. It is in short. L stands for leadership responsibility for quality control. Policy and procedure should be established in leadership responsibilities to promote an internal culture that quality is essential in audit engagement. Hence, the highest level in office should have ultimate responsibility. E is ethical requirement. It should be established to promote reasonable assurance that firm and personnel comply with professional ethics, independence, perform job with integrity and objectivity. While A is acceptance and continuance of clients and engagement. This is to decide whether to accept or continue a client relationship and whether to perform a specific engagement for that client, which likelihood of association with a client whose management lack integrity is minimized. H is human resources. This to provide the firm with reasonable assurance that the hiring process only hire those with the appropriate characteristic of competency. The personnel assigned to the client engagement have the degree of technical training and proficiency, and the personnel participate in continuing professional education and advancement activity of professional bodies and regulatory agency. Then E again is engagement performance. Policy and procedures should be established to provide the firm with reasonable assurance that the work performed meets applicable professional standards, regulatory requirements, and firm's standard of quality. Finally, the last one is M, monitoring, to provide the firm with reasonable assurance to the policies and procedures established for each element of the quality control are suitable, relevant, and being complied by members. At last, we're done with our discussion of topic 2, liability of auditor and quality control. See you guys in our next video.